Yes, besides Justice Varma has been claiming innocence throughout. He's denied any link to the cash that was recovered following a fire at his residence. All of that has been heard of too. Stay on with us, Ananya. Going across to Pallavi Ghosh on that note. Pallavi, how do we see this going forward, especially with the big move that the central government may take next? One of the many aspects of that is also going to be bringing the opposition parties into confidence before moving against Justice Varma.
Which I don't think is going to be much of a problem really, because what we have been told is that many from the government have started reaching out to the opposition parties, and parties like the Congress, the TMC, all of them do agree that there should be a zero tolerance zone when it comes to corruption within those who are supposed to ensure that justice is done to the common man. Now this kind of, see, the situation is very simple. I mean, if the impeachment motion is not supported by parties like the Congress or the TMC or other opposition parties, then the BJP will certainly call their bluff and say and accuse them of supporting an act of corruption. And also one of the biggest criticisms of Justice Varma really has been coming in from the opposition parties as well. So in a sense there is a compulsion, at the same time there is a consensus which has emerged. So come the monsoon session, it could be as early as that in July when the monsoon session of Parliament begins. It's a possibility of an impeachment motion being moved from either of the two houses, and as per the rules it requires a 2/3 majority for that motion to be cleared, and then of course finally it goes to the President of India, who is the person who's appointing authority as far as the Chief Justice and judges of India are concerned. So I don't think the government is too worried about consensus, but I'm going to look at something much more interesting. That is, once the impeachment proceedings are successful, whenever that happens, will the government then use that as a platform to come out with an NJAC kind of another law or system? Because after the NJAC was struck down by the Supreme Court in the backdrop of the corruption cases against Justice Varma and those charges, there have been many in the government and the Vice President of India himself been making the point that there should be a certain amount of transparency to ensure the credibility of the appointment of the judges.
Okay, and Pallavi, is an impeachment motion the way forward really if we go by the signalling that's coming from the government so far, or could there be more? Because, you know, there are cases like the Veeraswamy case that are being cited in speaking of how there is a possibility of an FIR also being filed against a High Court judge in this very case. So can more possibilities be explored? Can that be a possibility in the near future?
See, the biggest problem over here is that all attempts to make Justice Varma resign on its own have not really worked. Yeah. He's been transferred. There has been a resistance from the Allahabad High Court bench as well, because, you know, they also asked this question, why are you passing him off to us? Do you think we are a trash can? You know, there were those kind of voices also coming up. In an ideal situation, Justice Varma, many feel, should have actually stepped down on his own. Since that's not happening, impeachment motion is perhaps the biggest choice which are taking place. But there are two different things. The impeachment procedure also requires a semblance of investigation from a committee or a bench within the Parliament. But apart from that, the simultaneous probe or investigation which is going on is an ongoing process. There's a report already submitted and a report is already there in the Commons place, which talks about and gives blow-by-blow account of the entire procedure, how cash was recovered, how much was the amount of cash, what were the circumstances, and who was in the know. So there are two things which are happening simultaneously, which is why it almost seems certain now that Justice Varma's days are numbered.
Yeah. And with this entire impeachment motion reaching the Parliament, one thing is clear, that this is soon going to turn a tad bit political too, and it's going to be interesting to see how political parties on each side of the line respond to this. So far, the government seems to not have faced any issues on the same, as you just rightly pointed out. Pallavi, thank you for that quick update, playing out more political reactions we picked up on this big story.
This is a very, very serious incident that took place, where one saw the disturbing visuals of bundles of cash being on fire in the residence of Justice Yashwant Varma. Everyone has a stake that there should be no corruption, and action should take place if there is any, or investigation should take place, or process should begin if there are any allegations of corruption. So essentially, it will really boil down to two issues. One is the invocation of Article 124(4) of the Constitution of India, under which a judge can be removed through the parliamentary procedure. And the second is whether there should be a criminal investigation and the registration of an FIR to begin that criminal investigation into the allegations.
We have been questioning that we will support impeachment motion, Yeah, but the point is when they will bring impeachment motion. We do not know. But we have raised several critical questions with regard to the money found in the judge's residence. And instead of taking certain concrete action, they postponed him, they transferred him to some other place, then again some internal inquiry, 3-member inquiry. What is all that going on? It is known. Nobody denied that there was no money in his residence. It is a fact. How it happened? So there are many questions which need to be discussed.
बहुत गंभीर मसले हैं। हमने ऐसे गंभीर मसले और भी देखे हैं देश में अलग अलग जगहों पर, चाहे एग्जीक्यूटिव का हो मामला या जुडिशियरी का हो। एज इट कम्स विल डिसाइड।
ना हमारे पास आया है, ना हमसे वार्ता हुई है। आएगा अगर, जो सुनी सुनाई खबरें हैं, तो मैं तब उसके गुण दोष पर हम विचार करेंगे। तो इस बारे में तो मैं कुछ नहीं कहता, पर कांग्रेस हमेशा भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ रही है। जुडिशरी का हम सम्मान करते हैं। हम मानते हैं लोकतंत्र का ऐसा मजबूत स्तंभ है जिस पर जन जन का विश्वास है। उसका विश्वास बनाए रखने के लिए गुण दोष पर हम उस पर विचार करेंगे।
समाजवादी पार्टी समझती है कि देश की अदालत ने एक कमेटी बनाई थी, उस कमेटी की क्या रिपोर्ट है, उसमें क्या तथ्य सामने आए, इसकी कोई जानकारी सार्वजनिक ना की गई थी, ना समाजवादी पार्टी के पास ऐसी कोई जानकारी है। समाजवादी पार्टी भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ है और भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ जो भी है उसका समाजवादी पार्टी साथ भी देगी, लेकिन वो तथ्य सामने आने चाहिए। इसलिए जब महाभियोग का मामला सामने आएगा, सारी चीज़ें सामने होंगी, तो समाजवादी पार्टी उस पर निर्णय ज़रूर लेगी।